All right, so this is the 5.4 extra practice. Ooh. Okay, so if you have questions, which you probably will, that look similar to something like number 1 or A, sine of 3 pi over 4 minus 11 pi over 6. You guys are going to get the unit circle. You are going to be given the unit circle and the formulas. So everything you need is going to be right in front of you. I'm going to show you how I think you should do it. If you want full credit for everything, or if you want as much partial credit as possible, if you make a tiny little error, this is what you need to do. First thing you should do is look, is 3 pi over 4 and or 11 pi over 6 on the unit circle? Yes. Yes. What is the ordered pair for 3 pi over 4? Negative root 2 over 2 and? Root 2 over 2. Okay, and then what is the ordered pair for 11 pi over 6?
Root 3 over 2
and negative 1/2. And negative 1/2, okay?
I had a question.
Uh-huh.
So you know how it's minus 11 pi over 6?
Mm-hmm.
Would you apply like the negative to the ordered pair?
No. Good question. All that's saying is this angle minus the other angle. Good question. So guys, it's important that you first write down the correct ordered pair. Because if we don't get that right, then everything else is wrong. So then the next thing you're going to do is identify which formula you're using. You're using the sine, and you're doing what to the two angles? Subtracting. So you should say, okay, I'm going to use the formula that's sine of 3 pi over 4 times what? Cosine of 11 pi over 6 minus cosine 3 pi over 4 times sine 11 pi over 6. Christian, question.
Can't we just convert in the beginning so you don't have to worry about all the numbers?
Say it again.
Can we just convert them in the beginning so you don't have to worry about all the numbers?
Well, you want to put in just the root 2 and all that stuff? If you want to. I just find it easier for...
No, I mean like...
You mean into degrees?
Yeah. 135 is equal.
That's perfectly fine. So then, a good thing I think to do is to remind yourself that sine is y, cosine is x, sine is y. We're looking back and forth at ordered pairs that are sometimes the same or close to it, so you don't want to make any silly mistakes. What is the sine? What's the y value, guys, of 3 pi over 4? Root 2 over 2, okay? What's the cosine? What's the x value of 11 pi over 6? Root 3 over 2. Minus, what is the cosine, the x value of 3 pi over 4? Negative root 2 over 2, good. And then what is the y value of 11 pi over 6? Negative 1/2. Everybody with me? All right, now we just go back to algebra. What's root 2 times root 3? You get square root of 6, and 2 times 2 is 4. Minus, what is negative root 2 times negative 1? Positive root 2 over 2 times 2 is 4. I'm going to rewrite over one denominator and always simplify if you can. This becomes root 6 minus root 2 over 4. You cannot simplify that anymore, guys. The square root of 6 is not the number 6. The square root of 2 is not the number 2. So it just stays like that. Questions? Okay. All right, if you go to number 2, or B, it says the cosine of 285. So the first thing you should do is, hey, did she give us one that's on the unit circle and make my life easier? Is 285 on the unit circle? No. So now I have to find two angles that either add or subtract to give me 285. What's one combination that would work?
240 and 45.
240 and 45. Do you guys agree with that? Yes. Would I add those two together or subtract? Add. Okay, is there another pair of angles I could use?
135 and 150.
What'd you say?
135
135 and
and 150.
150. Does that give me 285? Yes or no? Okay. Is there another pair that we could use? Anything? What's 225 plus what? 60. Do you guys see how if Andrea picked 135 and 150 and Stefan picked 240 and 45 and Michael picked 60 and 225? 3 different sets of angles, yes? Yes or no?
Yeah.
But when I add them together, what do I get? 285. So it doesn't matter. You may not pick the same angle as someone else as long as the measure equals what you're trying to get, like 285, it doesn't matter which set you use. So which one do you guys want to use? Just pick one.
240,
What do you want to do, Christian?
240,
240 and 45. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this as this is what we're doing is the cosine of 240 plus 45. And if you didn't use those angles, check to see if you get the same answer. So let's quickly, please. What is the ordered pair at 240?
-1/2 and -3/2.
-1/2, -root 3 over 2. Okay, and what's the ordered pair at 45? Root 2 over 2, comma, root 2 over 2. That's one that you guys will always memorize. Now we have to go. Let's look at our formulas. You guys tell me what formula to use. We're going to do cosine. Okay, so I'm going to put in the numbers. Just take another extra step. Cosine 240, cosine 45, correct? Minus, do you see that, y'all? Sine 240, sine 45. You guys are given the formulas. There's no reason you should get that wrong. But notice, yes, we are adding these two, but the formula for cosine is subtraction. So now we just plug in. What is the x value of 240? -1/2. What is the x value of 45? Root 2 over 2. Good. Minus, what is the y value of 240? Yep. And then what is the y value of 45? Perfect. Questions? If you guys show me all this work and you just have one tiny little mess up with your signs, not that big major of a deal. If you don't show me all this and your signs are wrong, we got issues because I don't know that you knew what you were doing. If I multiply here, -1 times root 2 is -root 2 over 4. Agreed? Minus, what's -root 3 times 2? -root 6 over 4. 2 minuses make a positive. And if I write this over 1 denominator, it's root 2. -root 2 over -root 2 plus root 6 over 4. Do you see how these two answers are super similar? They don't always work out that way. A lot of times they do. But you just have to be super careful. This is how I think you should do it. I think you should write down the angles you're using. Write down the ordered pair. Don't keep doing this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You're going to make a mistake somewhere. Okay? Yes, sir.
What about degrees?
Say it again.
Can we use degrees?
Meaning what?
Like in the formula instead of
Humans
Repairs.
instead of radians.
radians like you did on the left?
All right, I'm sorry. I didn't understand. I thought you meant answer-wise. I'm like, you get the same thing. What Lucas just asked is, can I, instead of using 240 and 45, can I use the radian equivalent in the formula? Absolutely. I'm just saying you guys need to keep yourself organized. All right, when you get to this question, you guys, there's two parts to this question. They're asking you two different things. The first thing it says to do is to write the expression as sine, cosine, or tangent of an angle, means of 1. Then find the exact value. So this is how you should do this. First of all, identify. Don't even worry about the numbers or anything like that, but identify what formula you're beginning with. What formula goes sine, cosine, minus cosine, sine? Sine u minus v. Agreed? Okay, so you're going to use the formula sine u minus v. Well, what's the u angle? 210 minus what's the v angle? 150. So to write this as one trig function of one angle, this is the sine of what? 60. That is part A. That's the beginning. God bless you. I don't have it separated as two questions, but that's the first thing they're asking. To write each expression as the sine, cosine, or tangent of an angle. That's what you just did there. Now, the second thing you do is you say, okay, well, what is the ordered pair at 60? Somebody? 1/2 radical 3 over 2. What does sine mean, x or y? X is the y value. So what is the sine of 60? radical 3 over 2. There's two answers for that. You have to show me both. If all you did was just say, oh, in my head, I did 210 minus 150, I got 60, that's fine. But if you don't show me that, I'm not giving you credit. You write it as the sine, cosine, or tangent of an angle, which is right here. Then you tell me what the exact value is, which is here. Understand? All right, this one. Figure out, obviously, guys, what formulas are we looking at? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Tangent. Which tangent formula has an addition in the numerator and a subtraction in the denominator? Tangent u plus v. So what this is actually saying, to rewrite it as one angle, it's u plus v. So it's what? 300 plus 30, which simplifies to the tangent of 330. Does everybody understand it? That's the first part of this question. Now we say, God bless you, what's the exact value for the tangent at 330? Well, what's the ordered pair at 330? Radical 3 over 2. Negative 1/2. How do we find tangent?
Negative radical 3.
It's, how do you find tangent? It's what over what?
Right.
Y over x. So I say my y is negative 1/2 divided by root 3 over 2. Yes? Keep, change, flip. What happens? 2's cancel, so I have negative 1 over root 3. Now what? Got to multiply by radical 3. We have to rationalize. So the exact value of the tangent of 330 is negative root 3 over 3. Those are both correct answers. You have to have both.
So we didn't have to solve anything.
You did solve it. You don't have to work it out by putting the tangent in. You're working backwards because they tell you in the directions to write it as one angle.
Oh, because we did it like the other ones.
Just working backwards. All right, look at the last one. What's the formula? What goes cosine, cosine minus sine, sine? Cosine u plus v. Pay attention to that, guys. Cosine is the one where if you're adding the angles together in the formula, there's a subtraction and vice versa. So cosine of u plus v. So I'm going to rewrite this as one angle. Cosine of 100 plus 50, correct? Which simplifies to cosine 150. There is my function written as one angle. Now I look at 150. What is the ordered pair at 150? What's the ordered pair at 150?
Negative radical 3 over 2 and 1/2.
Thank you, my dear. If I want cosine, cosine is what value? X value. So my answer would be negative root 3 over 2. Both of those are my answers. You have to have both to get full credit. Comprende? All right, we'll do the last one and we're done. I'll give you guys your test back. Do not let me forget. All right, I asked you on this one to find what? Cosine of theta plus, as my last period called, little fishy. Okay, whatever, it's fine. All right, I'm going to get you, every single person, every single quiz version will have a question like this. They're telling you guys something about angle U, something about angle V. This little piece of information is super important. They're telling you that the cosine is negative 4 over 5. When I tell you cosine is something over something, what is it?
X over R.
Okay, this is x over r. So I know that I have an x value, a y value, and an r value. X is negative 4, r is 5. How did I know that x was negative 4? Okay, but just because the negative is with the 4 doesn't mean that that is negative. How do I know mathematically that that negative sign goes with the 4?
Because R can't be.
R can never be negative. Good. So now I have to check to make sure. I got to find y, but let's look at the signs. They tell me this angle is in what quadrant? Quadrant 2. This is quadrant 2, correct? What is the sign of y in quadrant 2? Of y?
No, positive.
Positive. So I know that this can be a positive number whenever I find it. So guys, you have negative 4 squared plus y squared equals 5 squared. 16 plus y squared equals 25. Y squared equals 9. So y equals what? 3. Good. Okay, so let's go over to the other angle that they're talking about. No, you're not getting a calculator. You guys can handle this. If they tell me sine, what are they giving me? Y over. Okay, so I got to find x. I know that y is 20, and I know that r is 29. They tell me that this angle is in quadrant 2. It's over here. What do I know about the sine of x? X? Negative. So I know this is going to be negative. So Pythagorean theorem, guys. X squared plus 20 squared equals 29 squared. X squared plus 400. Guys, if you don't know what 29 squared is, how could you figure that out? Multiply it. What's 29 times 29? 841. Somebody last period said, pre-calculus is so hard without a calculator. Guys, 29 times 29 is like 4th grade. So he said 4th grade is hard without a calculator. Sometimes. But how do I solve this? I get x squared equals 441. Now, if you had a problem like this, guys, think before you just start randomly guessing numbers. If 20 squared was 400 and 29 squared was 841, what's a possibility that the square root of 441 could be? It's got to be in between 20 and 29, yes? Okay, let's try 21. Let's just see what happens when I multiply 21 times 21. Here's a little refresher, guys. If you need to, take your finger and cover up that bottom 2. But 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2, yes? Now I go over here and I say 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times 2 is 4. So when I add this up, what do I get? What is the square root of 441? There you go. And I know it's what sign? Is it positive or negative? It's negative because of the quadrant that it's in. All right, we haven't even begun to solve. We haven't begun to do any pre-calc stuff. I just found out all of these little tiny pieces of information. Look at your cosine formula. What 2 trig functions are in the cosine formula? Sine and cosine, right? So that's what I need to identify from both of these problems or angles. From this angle, the sine of theta and the cosine of theta. Well, we already know that they gave us the cosine, right? It was negative 4/5. What's the sine? Sine is what over what? Y over r. So what's the sine? 3 over 5, okay? This isn't new, guys. You've done this before. Okay, this is our theta. And then, you guys, here's our little fishy. I need the sine, which is what? What did they tell me it was? It says it right here. 20 over 29. And then what's the cosine? Negative 21 over 29. Yes? Okay, so now this is all we need. Took us a minute to get here, but this is all we need to find out what the cosine is of those 2 angles combined. Our cosine formula is going to be cosine theta times cosine, right? If I'm adding them, what goes in the middle? Subtract for our formula, sine theta, sine fishy. So now just take your fractions and plug them in. What's the cosine of theta? Negative 4 over 5. What's the cosine of the other one? Negative 21 over 29. Minus, what is the sine of theta? 3/5. And what is the sine of the other one? Yep. So take a second to make sure that you have each angle represented where it needs to be. What do you notice about both of the denominators here and here? Right? When you multiply them together, you're going to get the same number? Okay. So, multiply. What is negative 4 times negative 21? Positive 84. What is 29 times 5? What's 30 times 5? What's 30 times 5, guys? Okay, here we go. What's 3 times 5? Put a 0 at the end, so that's 150. So 29 is one less, right? You're going to take 5 away if you're doing 29 times 5. Or, here's a novel idea. 29 times 5. 9 times 5 is 4. 9 times 5 is what? 45. Put the 5, carry the 4. What's 5 times 2? Plus 4. There we go. 145. Minus, what's 3 times 20? 60 over 145. Denominator should be the same. So simplify. What's 84 minus 60? Look, 84 minus 60. 4 minus 0 is 4. 8 minus 6 is 2. So it's 24 over 145. Guys, I will have negative 25% sympathy for you if you can't multiply and add and subtract. Like if you get down here and you say like 84 minus 60 is 4, and this question's worth 15 points, I might take off 10 because that's ridiculous. You're either being really lazy by not writing it down or you're just being careless. So either way, make sure you guys figure it out. But that's it. You're going to have a question like that on your quiz. Yes, ma'am. Sure. It's a lot to do for one problem. Yes, sir.
How do you know what formulas to use?
It'll tell you what to find. See, when I did this, when I uploaded it, for some reason the second page didn't upload, and this was there.
Oh, I didn't see
No, I wasn't there. I mentioned it yesterday in class, but I don't know if everybody heard it.
it. How is it subtraction?
Because look at your formula. Look, you're adding the two angles to find cosine, right? In my cosine, when I'm adding the two angles, it's subtraction in the middle.
Use the same.
You're going to use the same formulas.
Okay.
You guys are given the formulas and the unit circle. No calculators, but you have those two things.
How many questions will be on the quiz?
I think 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just like the review from yesterday?
It's like this.
Oh, okay.
Just like this. We good? Yes? Okay.